What is up, guys? Welcome on back to the news with TK. And everybody's wondering what's going on with China and a Chinese trade deal. Well, I saw Scott Bessent on Maria Bartiromo, Mornings with Maria, and he kind of got into detail. He covered a bunch of different subjects, but we're going to focus on the part about China here and tariffs and what needs to happen for there to be a trade deal. So without further ado, let's roll the intro and get directly into the segment.
I'm going to come back to this because you just mentioned China, and I want to ask you about China because I understand that with regard to these trade deals that you all are working on, you've been focused on the China end of it, and some of your colleagues are looking at other countries. Secretary, what exactly do you and President Trump want to see from China in terms of getting these tariffs down? The president put in this 145% tariff. China comes back with a retaliation of 125%. What do you want China to do?
Well, I think this is going to be a multi-step process, Maria. I think first there will need to be a de-escalation on these very large tariffs. 145 and 125 are not sustainable on the Chinese side. We saw some very poor GDP numbers out of them. Out of China yesterday. We're now seeing very large estimates of job growth loss from 5 to 10 million jobs. So the Chinese economy is slowing down substantially here. So what we will first want to see is a de-escalation. We will likely revisit the purchase agreements that were put together in the first China trade agreement in January of 2020 to make sure that the Chinese are honoring those agreements. And then we are going to push for fair trade with China. They are the most imbalanced economy in the history of the world, and they need to rebalance. Now, Maria, the big deal that could be done here is President Trump is oriented the U.S. toward a manufacturing economy, taking us back to the strength that's been sapped over the past several decades. Everyone knows that China needs to rebalance towards more consumption. So if we could rebalance together, then that would be the big deal. But in the meantime, we're going to bring down the unfair trade barriers and hold them to the agreements that they previously signed.
Okay, so they have to keep their commitments that they already committed to President Trump in his first term because they stopped buying the agriculture that they said that they would under Joe Biden. We know that. And you say you want them to buy more from America. You got to up the consumption. What about the non-tariff barriers? What about some of the things that China does, like the surveillance of America, buying land near our military installations, all of the other non-tariff barriers that President Trump has spoken about, bullying our Navy ships?
Well, look, Maria, there's a whole range of the bad behavior by the Chinese. We're going to be focused on trade, but the non-tariff trade barriers for China are especially insidious. China actually has low tariffs that if you look at the stated tariffs, it's just impossible for U.S. companies to do business there. And when they do, there's substantial IP theft, there's cyber hacking. So, everything is on the table for the economic relationship. I am confident that the Chinese will want to reach a deal. And as I said, this is going to be a multi-step process. First, we need to de-escalate, and then over time, we will start focusing on a larger trade deal.
Okay, very, very important information there. And the president said there's a very good chance that the U.S. makes a deal with China. Do you see that happening within a couple of weeks, a couple of months? What's your timing, Mr. Secretary?
Well, again, Maria, as I said, the Chinese need to de-escalate these high tariffs because there is the equivalent of an embargo, and the Chinese business model is built on selling cheap goods to the U.S. They sell us about 5 times more than we sell them. So, their factories are closing down as we speak. We're going into the holiday season. Orders are placed for that now. So if those orders aren't placed, it could be devastating for the Chinese.
And Commerce Secretary Lutnick yesterday said that you're leading these negotiations, and he's dealing with other countries. But there's lots of speculation that we're close on India and other. Is it fair to say that we'll see a deal with India and South Korea before we see something with China?
Well, again, Maria, these are multi-step deals because of the de-escalation. Could we see a de-escalation because the Chinese need to de-escalate sooner than the other deals? Perhaps. But the other deals are moving along well. I am concentrating on our Asian trading partners. So we're meeting with the Japanese delegation today. We've had some very good meetings with Korea. Vice President Vance was in India. I had very good meetings with the Indonesian finance minister. So, we are moving quickly.
Personally, I have to agree. I think China has to show some willingness that it wants to deal. It's playing a dangerous game because if it doesn't do any deal at all, right, or it lets this continue on, they're laying off millions of workers. Thousands of factories are going idle right now. Ports are all but done. Because this is the thing that I don't think a lot of people understand. President Trump made it very clear. His team also made it clear to a lot of our allies in, hey, if we're doing this deal with you, like the EU or India or some of these other places, we need you to hold firm with us on China. China sends basically 5 items for every 1 item the United States sends back. China needs the market in the United States. Could they survive without it? Or could they do, like they talked about the other day, like eat the bitter pill and just eat the bitterness for an extended period of time? Maybe. I don't think the Chinese people are the people they were 40 years ago. I think some of the younger people in China right now want some of that freedom. And I think they're looking for an excuse. And I think there's even people in the PLA, in the Chinese military that would flip and maybe even back a coup. So Xi Jinping needs to be very careful here. They either need to get a deal done or get some type of tariff relief and maybe open their markets a little bit more to the United States before this gets out of hand. It becomes something that can't get put back in the bottle. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. Give the video a big thumbs up if you like what I do. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. I want to sincerely know what your thoughts and impressions are on a Chinese deal. Maybe you're not an economist, maybe this isn't your thing, but it is one of the biggest trading partners outside of the European Union that we have. And I think a trade deal there is huge. I also think that if India gets a deal done quickly before China, if you have Korea, Japan, India do a deal, their deals are done. At that point, India could become the new China. And there's a lot of stuff that India wants from the United States, including F-35s. And listen, as a defense contractor, I can tell you, there's a lot of military equipment in the United States that India would love to buy. I guess we'll see how it goes. Until next time, thank you very much for watching. And as always, stay petty, my friends.